Hello and welcome to the School of Cloud. The School of Cloud. This week we're working on building and securing networks. This is the second week we've been doing this. Last week it was a bit tough. There were some labs that if you hadn't seen stuff about networking before, it might have gone right over your head, just like a cloud. That's what clouds do sometimes. They're up there in the sky. Anyway, so the clouds, some of the stuff last week, kind of tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of the stuff this week is gonna be a little tough too. Don't worry. Our goal isn't to become experts at this right away. Our goal is to get more and more familiar as we go through, so that then after a while, this starts to be comfortable and to be something that you can handle and that you can be confident about. At the beginning, it's not going to be easy on some things. And this is the networking related part is an area I kind of knew would have some challenge. So we're going to go through it together. I'm going to help you as much as I can. Elaine's here, Kristen's here as well, and we're going to make this work. So after this week, we've got one more week on networking, and then we're going to go to something completely different. We're going to go to cloud logging. So we're going to learn where do all the logs go about things that worked and things that failed in the cloud. So you were running something and it gave an error message. Where does that go? Let's go find those and let's set up alerts and reports and things so we can be notified when there's a problem, or dashboards so we can show to our boss how things are successful and working great. So that's going to help a lot with troubleshooting. And then when we go to more labs, as we learn other parts of Google Cloud, we'll always have that skill that we can go back to. So that section, not next week, but the 3 weeks after, that's going to be very valuable. And I'm going to try my darndest to get as many people into that as I can, because there's a lot of people who just learn something about Google Cloud, but they don't learn where the error messages go. They don't learn the logging, and then they don't know how to fix the problems that they're facing. So this week, I'm Jeff Williams. I already introduced myself before. The Google Tech Lead over at UC Berkeley, formerly of the University of Minnesota. And I'm your host tonight. Also, we have Elaine Chan. Elaine?
Hi, you guys. So I'm Elaine. I'm a junior at Western Michigan University, and thank you guys for joining us today.
All right. And together, we're going to work to try to get you leveled up. So we're starting off with BigQuery. We went to Google Cloud Basics. Now we're on Build and Secure Networks. After that, Google Cloud Logging. And then you know what we're going to do? We're going to make a new cool graphic like this that shows what we're going to do for April, May, and June. Also in April, you might have seen, I'll jump ahead a little bit. Also in April, we're going to start having the School of Data, a whole nother set of events. Those will be Monday nights, half as long, just one lab each night, but those will be on Mondays. That's something we're doing because there's a lot of interest in data engineering. And you know what? If you're doing data stuff in Google Cloud, where do the logs go? Into Google Cloud. So if you learn the stuff that we're going to start on, the cloud logging stuff in a couple weeks here, that's going to help you, even if you're interested in data, even if you're interested in machine learning, AI, any of those different things in Google Cloud, the successes and the failures all get logged to things like Google Cloud Logging. So that'll be a good skill to pick up so that you can use that along the way as you go into learning more things. Now, you don't have to learn data engineering if it's not interesting. We're still having these events, the School of Cloud events about Google Cloud Platform, but that subspecialty of data, it's worth its own group because there's just so many people that are just laser focused on learning that. And I saw it in the market, so that's why I'm reacting to it by having us have a second event series on Mondays about that. And then if you're looking for a job in tech and you're trying to get ready, you're just about there. I've been hosting tech and data career growth rooms over on Clubhouse every week. And I'm getting pretty good at helping people interview. And a lot of the attendees are starting to get jobs. And it's really inspiring and great comments and stuff. So love to have you come over and join some of those, and then try to help you get new jobs in tech, level up your skills, level up your job. It's a good thing. So we've done this so many times before, but the briefest intro to Google Cloud Platform, it's basically the ability to rent time on Google servers that they've got more than they need. There are times in the year when they're not super busy. There are times in the day when they're not super busy. That's kind of the original idea of having the cloud. You're paying to use servers that other people aren't busy using, these big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So when you're doing that, you're paying for either by the hour, or you're reserving a computer for a whole year, or you're paying by the minute, all kinds of, or even per second billing in some cases. And you're not having to buy servers. You're just renting the ones that you need just as much as you need, just for the time you need. There's a lot of people that have things that servers that they buy and they don't really make you much use of. The cloud, you don't have to pay for what you're not using. So it's a different model, and it's really taking over the market. Now, Google Cloud Platform, they divide the services up into 4 main categories, and they're all represented here. We got things like App Engine and Kubernetes up in the top left, and of course, Compute Engine, where you can rent full servers. And then on the right-hand side, you've got all these different storage and database options. Bottom right, neat things that you can do with the data that you've got stored, translating it, doing machine learning on it, figuring out what's in an image by using artificial intelligence. And bottom left, all kinds of neat ways to process data that you've got that's stored in the cloud and to get information out of it. So those are some of the things that are there. And now, when we've passed the labs from this week, last week, and next week, when we finish those labs, we're going to get this badge that we can put on our LinkedIn, and it'll show up in Quick Labs in our profile and in our public profile if we check to make our profile be public. There's one other lab in addition that you can take to then earn this other badge. So you can have 2 badges. Now this quest/31, that's the one we're going to be working on tonight. So when you are in Quick Labs and you're on any of the quests, you can change the number to 31 and boom, you'll be right there with us. That's the lab quest, that we're working on tonight. That's 2 labs that we're going to do. Now, those are the same kind of things from last week. First person to write networking in the chat gets special recognition. And yeah, if the cloud's on the ground, it is fog, isn't it? What if it freezes? Then you got like icy fog stuff. Like, watch out for that. It's probably dangerous.
Our lab itself. All right, and let's go ahead and look at some of the objectives of the lab. So we're going to go ahead and create 2 nginx web servers and control external HTTP access to the web servers using tagged firewall rules. Then we're going to explore IAM roles and service accounts. So in this lab, we're going to be able to perform creating an nginx web server, creating tagged firewall rules, creating a service account with IAM roles, and we're going to explore some of the permissions for network admin and security admin roles. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I'm just going to go ahead and explain a little bit of some of the terminology that we just went over. So basically, we're going to create a VPC network. And VPC basically means virtual private cloud, which is a virtual version of a physical network, and it's implemented inside of Google's production network. As for nginx, it's a web server. An equivalent web server will be Apache. Maybe that would be more familiar with you guys. So it's basically an open sourced HTTP server. It serves to serve websites on the internet and acts as a middleman between client and server. And another thing we're going to look at is basically firewall, which is basically a tool that serves to manage connections to VM instances, whether you allow them or not, something like that. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So once you go ahead and click Start Lab, confirm that you're not a robot. Go ahead and do this CAPTCHA. There we go. So just a heads up, once you hit Start Lab and the timer starts, it's going to provision a temporary environment of GCP where you could use, and it's actually going to deprovision after the timer runs down. There's a lot of bicycles. So is it the right lab to enroll in? Build and secure networks is one of the labs you could enroll in. Another one would be, Jeff, could you drop the name of the other one if you're still here? But yeah, they're actually the same thing. Build and secure networks is basically a challenge quest where you have a challenge lab. The other one just doesn't have the challenge lab. Right. Oh no. Okay. Right. So the other one would be networking and Gcloud. Bicycles. I'm gonna skip that. Okay. Traffic lights. All right. So if this is the first lab you enrolled in, you should see that you have to launch with credits, but after you finish this lab, you should be able to see launch with monthly subscription. So there we go. And then we've got our username, password, ID, region, and zone. As I said before, all these are only temporary and it's going to deprovision after the timer runs down. So we're going to start with our first step. It's gonna have us create the web servers. They're gonna be named blue and green. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open up Google Console. Always open in an incognito window just so it doesn't like get messed up with your personal emails, but I'm already in one, so I'm just gonna open in a new tab. And then that's my email. Go ahead and drop the password. Okay, I'm gonna accept this. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down back to the first instruction. I'm gonna agree to terms of service. There we go. So first things first, we're gonna go ahead and create our virtual machines, and it's gonna be stored under compute engine, under VM instances. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna hide info panel, and we're gonna go ahead and create our first instance. It's gonna be named blue. S here. The region and zones should be specified as so. And then, okay, we're gonna go ahead and just create a firewall tag. So this is an outdated version. This time around, it's actually called networking disks, security management, sole tenancy. So you want to go ahead and click on that. As you can see, it's actually quite different just because this is the outdated version. Right, we're gonna go ahead and look at networking, and we're gonna go ahead and specify a network tag. So for network tags, we're gonna go ahead and type in web server. And the reason why we want to do this is just because when we want to go ahead and create a firewall rule, we're gonna go ahead and have them look at the network tags to know which VM instances should the firewall rules be applied to, basically. And then next thing we want to do is go ahead and tag this instance as HTTP. So, oh, I am missing something out. Network tags, web server. Okay. Networks use network tags to identify which VM instances are subject to certain firewall rules and network routes. Later in this lab, we're going to create a firewall rule to allow HTTP access for VM instances with the web server network tag. Alternatively, we could check the allow HTTP traffic checkbox, uh, which is over here, which could tag this instance as HTTP server. And basically, there is already a default firewall rule where they have uh, the connection allowed for any network tags server. So if you go ahead and click on this, the network tag will automatically say HTTP server. But we're gonna have this manually created. So I'm gonna go ahead and click create. And if I go ahead and check my progress, assessment completed, even though it's still loading. Sure. And we're gonna go ahead and create the second server, which is the green server. And if you look through the instructions, you realize that they didn't specify for us to create a network tag, and we'll see why later. So right in here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on the more actions option. I'm gonna go ahead and create instance, and we're gonna go ahead and rename it. Region and zone should be the same as such, and then we're gonna go ahead and click create. So if you realize, or if you looked at the other options that we could have modified, there were options like machine types and all of that. Those are mostly just to specify what machine types you want your virtual machine to be, and just basically the hardware or software of your virtual machines. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and install nginx and customize the welcome page. So still in the VM instances dialog, we're gonna go for blue. All right, we're gonna SSH to launch a terminal. This SSH is basically to directly connect to your virtual machine. Click connect. And then we're gonna go ahead and run this command. Let me go ahead and copy it. Paste it first. All right, so it's gonna take a while. Oh, it actually did not take a while, but let me go ahead and just explain a little bit. So sudo is basically uh, an, a short form for super do, but basically it's just gonna go ahead and have that command line run with administrative privileges. And apt get is basically a command to manage packages, such as if you want to update your package or download and install a package and things like that. And nginx Lite is basically one of the lightest, if not the lightest flavor of nginx web server. So say that you don't want the entire implementation of nginx, you can just have a little bit of nginx, and this is basically the lightest version. And this flag Y basically means assume yes, which means you want to go ahead and automatically have the command say yes to any prompt that might pop up. If you don't run it with the Y flag, there will be some questions or prompts that might pop up saying, oh, do you want to have this in a specific directory? Those kind of prompts, and you will want to have to answer those yourself. And let's go ahead and look at the next step. We're gonna go ahead and say sudo nano. Nano is basically just a text editor where you can edit code basically in the terminal itself. As you can see, Nano is one of the more preferred text editors for beginners just because they have all of these instructions laid out in case you forget how to exit the terminal. Then let's go ahead and look at step 4. We're going to go ahead and replace the first this line, which is called heading 1. Heading 1, basically H1 is just to specify the style of heading, or basically the main heading. And then we're gonna go ahead and change it to welcome to the blue server. So I'm gonna go ahead and go down here, backspace it, type in blue server. And once you're done, it tells you to go ahead and hit Control O, enter Control X. That basically is write out or just to save it. And then enter is gonna be, I'll go ahead and run it out actually. Control O means file name to write. We're gonna leave it as it is just because we want this file to be named as such, or in other words, don't rename it. We're gonna hit enter just to say, oh yeah, that's what we want to do. Control X is to exit. You could have done Control X and the prompt would have popped up on its own and hit enter, but this is just another roundabout way. Control X, exit. All right, we're gonna verify the change by looking at cat and then our path name. Cat basically means concatenate, and it just is to showcase whatever's in the file and not actually have to look at it through a text editor. So we're gonna go ahead and say cat path name, paste it out here, and you can see that I changed the heading 1 to welcome to Blue server. I didn't change the title just because title would be over here. They wanted us to change the heading 1. Just heads up. Just go ahead and check if you changed title instead of heading 1. And then we're going to go ahead and exit this terminal or end the SSH session. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our green server, but we're going to just change the heading 1 to a different piece of information. We're going to change it to server. All right, same thing. We're going to go ahead and install this web server. All right, have it run up a little bit. Then we're going to go ahead and use a text editor to change the heading 1. All right, we're going to go ahead and change to welcome to green server. Oh, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I meant by having a write out control X first. It's going to be control X. Save modified buffer. Basically, it means, do you want to save the changes you made? We're going to say yes. Why? And then we're going to hit enter. And it's going to exit same way, but kind of different. Then we're going to go ahead and verify the change by typing this out. And it shows that we changed the heading 1 to welcome to the green server. Great. We're going to go ahead and end this SSH session. I'm going to go ahead and check my progress. And assessment completed. And then you just want to go ahead and make sure that there's a green check mark by each checkpoint. And also on the right, there is this little pop-up box. If you click on it, it should show that your progress has been saved. If not, you want to go ahead and just troubleshoot from there. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on by creating the firewall rule. So this firewall rule is just to allow HTTP connectivity to any VM instance with the web server network tag. We're going to allow external HTTP ingress, basically. All right, we're going to go ahead and navigate through the firewall. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm lazy to look through it slowly, so I'm just going to use the search bar. That's search for firewall. It should be under VPC network. Click on that. And we're going to go look at some of the firewall rules that were created by default. And if you look, you'll see that there is a default allow internal. And this basically allows traffic on all protocols or ports within the default network. We're going to go ahead and look at it more in depth a little while later when we look at it underneath. I think it's over here. All right, we're going to go ahead and create the firewall rule. So let's go ahead and click create firewall rule. And then we're going to go ahead and specify some of these. All right, the name's going to be allow HTTP web server. Network is going to be default. Target is specified target tags. And the target tags is basically the network tag that we created on our VM instance, which is web server. All right, that's one of it. You can always add more. And then source filter, and this is also outdated. We're going to go ahead and say IP ranges. So we have two options. There's IPv4, IPv6. The only difference is the size of the IP address, right? So IPv4 is basically what we want to go for, because if you look at our IP ranges or the other column that we're supposed to specify, the number of bytes, basically, of bits or bytes, is for IPv4. Then we're going to go ahead and type in 0.0.0/0, and this basically means to have all networks. That's what the forward slash is for. And then we're gonna go ahead and look at protocols and ports. We're gonna go ahead and choose specify protocols and ports. We're only gonna allow TCP connection at port 80. And for other protocols, we're gonna go ahead and select this and type in ICMP. So basically, ICMP is a control protocol that transfers information about other protocols. I personally am myself am not too familiar with TCP and UDP, but if I were able to find a link with more information, I'll drop it in the chat a little later. Okay, I'll go ahead and click create. So the firewall rule is basically being created as of now. And then you could always check the activities through this little notification bar or the cloud logging, which we will learn in the next series. But so far, it seems that our firewall rule has been created. That's great. We're gonna go ahead and click check my progress. And it seems that it's not showing here. Okay, there we go. 75, and we successfully created our firewall rule. Great. Now we're gonna go ahead and create another virtual machine just to test out a firewall rule and how it's working. We're gonna go ahead and go back to compute engine, VM instances, which is basically virtual machine instances. And then we're gonna go ahead and create another one called test VM. VM instances. Where's my VM? Oh. Okay. Oh, wait. I am blind. My apologies. I'll go ahead and click create instances, and then we're gonna name. Oh, okay. I see where. Just so you know, over here, this is just the Cloud Shell equivalent of creating a VM instance. So how we created a VM instance just now was through the interface itself. Then for here, we're gonna use the command line or Cloud Shell right here. So you just want to go ahead and I'll go ahead and use a Cloud Shell one so that you could see how we could create a VM instance through Gcloud shell, right? The console's provisioning. And Cloud Shell is basically a really scaled down virtual machine that is provided for free for all GCP users. It's very limited though. It works if you want to get really small scale projects done or just small tasks. But in terms of wanting to create a big task or obviously having your virtual machine or basically your tasks saved, you do not want to use the Cloud Shell. This is more of a temporary quick easy solution. So basically to create an instance, you're gonna use Gcloud compute instances, and the command that you want to use is create. And I'm gonna go ahead and use the help flag to show you what you could actually specify in terms of creating a virtual machine. So the one thing you have to say is the instance name. So it's always going to be Gcloud compute instances create, and then you want to specify the name. And then all these other flags are optional. And if you look over here, they want us to specify the machine type, the subnet, and the zone. I personally would say that for zone, that's the most important flag you probably want to look at just because we're looking at connectivity within the same network. So, but in terms of machine type and subnet, you could kind of ignore it. All right, let's go ahead and copy this command. I'm going to paste it here. Enter. All right, we're going to authorize. Okay. Just taking a while. And then the output should show something like that. And it is. So great. We're going to go ahead and check if our virtual machine has been created and assessment completed. Next, we're going to go ahead and test HTTP connectivity, and we want to go ahead and SSH back into our web servers for that. All right, so if we go ahead, you can close out the Cloud Shell. If you go ahead and SSH from our test VM, so we're going to launch a terminal, connect it. We want to go ahead and curl, basically try to reach out to the blue server. And if you go ahead and scroll to the right a little bit more, you could see the internal IP and external IP from here. And then we have the blue at first, so I'm going to go ahead and copy the internal IP address for the blue VM. You're going to want to go ahead and type in curl, paste, enter. And you should be able to see the little nginx template that we had, and it should say blue server, and there shouldn't be any errors basically. And we want to go ahead and try to curl for the green servers. We're going to go ahead and copy the internal IP address again. Let's go ahead and let's copy this. Oh wait, I'm not going to copy that. I'm going to type it in. Curl C3 paste, enter. Okay, it seems that it's working also. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and say curl help. Right, if you go ahead and look at C, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Did I miss it? Oh, okay, there you go. Basically, this is the C flag. And then we're going to go ahead and create any necessary local directory hierarchy, create LF to CRLF and upload, and write cookies to file name after operation. For more documentation, I would highly suggest for you to just search something like C flag in curl command, what it might mean. That
Hey, Elaine.
Itself, I'm quite sure what it means. Yes.
That's keeping that's about cookies, right? It's that first
Okay.
one with the dash C is just about that cookie jar. So it's making a file called 3 that stores the cookies, which is weird. It's almost like they copied a ping command, like ping -C3, and they like just put C3 on this curl. It might be something where they made a mistake in the lab, because -C3, I've never seen someone use it in this way, because that's just about storing cookies. Like a web browser would store cookies, so then if you visit it again, you'll keep using the same cookies. I mean, there might be something like that that they're actually doing on purpose, but it'd just be weird that they have 3 there. But last week, our lab had ping -C3 so many times, so I'm 99. Actually, no, I'm 100% sure that this is a mistake, that they copied and pasted, and then they didn't change the word curl, or they changed the word curl, but they didn't take away the C3.
Then again, it's an outdated lab, so that might be a reason. Or if they wanted to just store cookies, they might. Cool. All right, we're going to go ahead and test out the external IP address this time. So we're going to go ahead and curl the blue server's IP address for external IP address. Go ahead and type in curl, paste the external IP address. It should work fine as well. But if we go ahead and let's try to use, I'm going to go ahead and just type in curl without, I'm going to test out the internal IP address of the green server without the cookies enabled. Let's go ahead and try that out. Yeah, it seems that it works fine. I don't know what cookies were saved here, but sure. Anyways, let's go ahead and try out the external IP address of the green server by saying curl. Okay, I'll allow cookies. and external. So an error should pop out actually. Okay. I'll wait for this process to finish or just not finish, basically hang. Oh yeah, it's not gonna finish. So apparently it doesn't run just because um it didn't have the network tag of web servers, so the firewall basically just stops it from accessing this this web server basically. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open up 3. Let me go ahead and see. Oh yeah, it's actually there.
There's a question over in the chat. Michelle asks, how bad is it to just click the X instead of exiting properly?
Which X?
I'm
The upper,
not sure which window. Maybe it's
this one?
maybe it's that SSH one.
The SSH one?
Yeah.
Didn't you use Control X? I used Control X to exit the text editor called Nano.
Oh,
There you
the upper right, she says. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that means to leave the cloud console, or like the cloud shell.
Oh, this isn't a call shell though. This is the
I
terminal for the
I
VM.
know. Well, either of them, it would be fine. You're not hurting anything. But if you close this one that you're in, then you'll have to open it back up again if you
But yeah,
more that you have to do.
if you were to close the text editor X without saving it, that might be a problem just because none of your changes might have been saved basically.
Yeah, you
But
want to save, but after you've saved, then you could close it, and that'd be fine. It looks like she specified now that it was the text editor, so we're all
yeah.
set. Thank you.
So anyways, the file 3 actually didn't have anything. It was just comments. Um Nothing was saved in the file, but I guess kind of redundant, but all right. Okay, we can verify the same behavior from a web browser by opening the tab. Also from that, I'll go ahead and try that out too. Do I have that still? Okay. So we just want to go ahead and open a new tab, type in HTTP, paste, and it should hang or just keep loading. And that's exactly what they were talking about. I'm gonna close that out. Cool. So next we're gonna go ahead and explore network and security admin roles. Let me just go back out real quick. Okay. And then it says here, all right. So basically, Cloud IAM is identity and access management. It's a feature in GCP to help us configure who we want to allow roles to and who we want to allow to have access to resources and take action on it, basically. So we have a few. There's network admin to have permissions to create, modify, and delete networking resources, except for firewall rules and SSL certificates. Security admin have the permissions to create, modify, and delete firewall rules and SSL certificates. So we're gonna explore these roles by applying them to a service account, which is a special Google account that should belong to a resource, in our context, a VM instance instead of an individual user. So we're gonna authorize test VM to use the service account to demonstrate the permissions of the network admin and security admin roles. So currently test VM uses the compute engine default service account. Seeing how it is a compute engine, we're gonna go ahead and see what that means. Basically, we're gonna try out this role and see what are the limitations to that. So we're gonna go ahead and try to list all the available firewall rules, which is Gcloud compute firewall rules list through the asset through the test VM instance. Enter, it should say error. It's taking quite a while, but basically it shouldn't work. Just because we don't have permissions for that. And then if we were to delete this firewall rule called allow HTTP web server, we're also unable to do that just because we don't have the permissions for it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and continue to creating a service account. I'm actually gonna go ahead and close out this SSH session. Let me leave this. Let's go ahead and create a service account. So I am an admin. We're gonna go ahead and just click on that real quick. Then we're gonna look for service accounts and see how there are a few default service accounts. So one's gonna be Quick Labs, or basically the platform that we're using for like this lab. And the compute engine default service account was created because we have compute engine resources configured. All right, we're gonna go ahead and create a service account. Go ahead and name it. We're gonna name it to network admin. We're gonna ignore everything. This is a default, by the way. We're gonna go ahead and create continue. For a role, we're gonna go ahead and use the compute network admin role. Just type in compute admin network. Compute network admin. Oh, sorry. And then it's gonna have full control of compute engine networking resources. Click on that. We're gonna click done. And then we're gonna go ahead and also get the credentials in a JSON format. I'll go ahead and show you what it may look like in a bit. Okay. And then, okay, seems that it's done. We're gonna go ahead and click on the three dots, which is options, manage keys, and then we're gonna add key. We're gonna create new key, and then we're gonna go ahead and click create, which will automatically download a JSON file into our laptop or computer. Okay, we're gonna close this. Let me go ahead and open this up. What's my default? I think I chose. Let's see what I chose. Give me a second. All right. Okay, give me a second. Sorry. Minimize this out. So look for Finder. Right, it should be my downloads. Let me go ahead and open it with my text editor. Okay, oh, this is quite a bit of information, but here we go. Basically, it has the type of account or type of role, and then the project ID, private ID key, and the private key, which is super long, as you can see, email and things like that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. We're gonna continue with the next step, which is to rename the JSON key file to credentials.json. And the reason being, we're gonna go ahead and run some commands, and we don't wanna, use the really long name that's provided by default, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and rename it. You might not be able to see it because I'm doing this on a different screen, but you just want to go ahead and search for that file in your laptop and then just rename it to credentials.json. Credentials, okay, done. All right, next we're gonna go ahead. Let me go ahead and, that's not it. Okay, let me go ahead and check my progress. Okay, the service account has been provided, and you want to make sure that you got 100 out of 100. We're gonna go ahead and return to the SSH terminal of the test VM instance. All right, if you were to go ahead and look at this, I'm gonna need your participation for this. The network admin role provides permissions to, what do you think? Let's see, compute engine. Kind of, but specifically, it's got to do with firewall rules. So if we were to look at here, it should be able to modify, create, and list firewall rules. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, okay. Should be able to modify and list, and create. Just list. Oh, so it's just able to list. Let me go back up and look at it. Interesting. That's interesting. Sure. I'll go ahead and look that up after this session. Quite suspicious about that. Anyways, SSH time. Going back to VM instances. Alright. Then we're gonna go ahead and SSH into our test VM. And then we wanna go ahead and just upload our credentials.json file. And the way we do so is basically by clicking on this gear icon and upload a file. And then I have my files over here. Okay, it seems that file transfer was successful. I'm gonna close it. Right, so if you go ahead and type out the command ls, which is list, it's going to show you all the files within the current directory, and it seems that we have our credentials.json file created or transferred. And then we want to go ahead and just authenticate this service account by providing it a credentials type file, which is stored in credentials.json. So basically copy this, and the command is basically Gcloud off, activate service account, and the flag is gonna be key file. Enter, and then it should say activated service account credentials for your service account. Oh, okay. Thank you, Michelle. She did mention that rules compute network admin permissions to create, modify, and delete networking resources except. Oh, okay. Right. Thank you for that. So, yeah, it only allows us to look at firewall rules, not modify or change it or create it, basically. All right. Then we're going to go ahead and list all the firewall rules that is available. So it's going to be Gcloud compute firewall rules list. Right, let's see. We have all of the defaults and also the one firewall rule that we created ourselves. But if we were to try to delete it, we wouldn't be able to do so just because the permissions that were allowed were just for network admin. Great. And then we want to go ahead and update the service account and verify permissions. So unlike the network admin, the security admin should be able to create and modify and list the firewall rules. Okay, yeah. At least one more. Oh, I didn't look at that. There we go. Basically do everything for the firewall rules. Now we're gonna go ahead and change it up. Let me go ahead and minimize this. All right, I am admin. Might find a network admin, focus on the name column, or basically this column, and it's gonna be right here. And then we want to go ahead. we want to go ahead and just change it up real quick. Okay, network admin, added principal. Then we're gonna go ahead and change this role to compute security admin. You could always add another role, but in our case, we're just changing it. So from compute, we're gonna change it to compute security admin, which is full control of compute engine security resources. All just lies under one of those. Clicking save, and then we're gonna return to our SSH. Let's go ahead and run it again. I'm gonna go ahead and try to list it. There we go, it works. And if we were to delete it, it should work too, unless I have to restart my SSH session. Oh, I didn't paste it, my bad. All right, it seems that we were able to delete it if we say yes. So we just want to go ahead and say yes, and it should tell us that deletion completed. All right, and then if we were to verify the deletion of the firewall rule, we just want to go ahead and curl the external IP address of the Blue's external IP address, and it should work. Okay, let me go ahead and bring this back in. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to our compute engine, VM instances. That's where the external IP is at. I'll click on copy, and it seems that it's been deleted. We can go ahead and try it out. Curl paste. Let's see. Did I use blue? I did. Oh, it should not work because we don't have the firewall rule. Oh, okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and Control C to stop that. And then let's see. Firewall rule. Yeah, we should be able. Do you guys have any problems or difficulties so far? This is the end of this lab, actually. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end lab. That was the end of the first lab. I'm gonna go ahead and hit submit. Rate it if you want. I already rated it back. I just said outdated. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going back. And you just want to make sure that you've got a green check mark by the side of this lab. And all of these resources shouldn't be able to be used after the timer has run out or if you just end lab. Okay, I'm going to leave that. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and start our second lab, which is HTTP load balancer with cloud armor. Right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just look at terminology real quick, just before we look at the overview, just before we start our lab, to get ourselves a little more familiar with technical terms that will appear throughout this lab. So HTTP load balancer basically distributes network or application traffic across a number of servers just to make sure that the servers aren't overcrowded unequally or resources are being used unequally, basically. And then we're going to look at health check firewall rules, that is to determine whether back-end instances, servers, etc. respond properly to traffic. Then we're going to look at instant templates. They're basically templates to help us create virtual machines. And then we're going to look at instance groups, which is a collection of virtual machine instances that can be managed as one single entity. So instead of having like what we had, the blue server, green server, test VM, and having to manage it one by one, we're just going to group it up and then manage it as one, even though it's individually themselves. Then we're also going to look at deny list, which is basically a list of sites or programs, etc., that are not allowed across as traffic. So let's look at the overview. Google Cloud HTTPS load balancing is implemented at the edge of Google's network in Google's POP around the world. User traffic directed to such load balancer enters the POP closest to the user and is then load balanced over Google's global network to the closest backend that has sufficient capacity available. And from this definition, you can kind of see how each resource won't be wasted if they're not being used properly. And Cloud Armor basically creates a deny list to allow traffic or basically restrict some unwanted traffic across our servers, entering our networks. And in this lab, we're going to configure an HTTP load balancer with global backends. Then we're going to stress test the load balancer, basically provide a lot of random or just test out our load balancer, see if it works against traffic in the denial list. And we look here, we're gonna have two backends, if I'm not mistaken. One is gonna be this backend called oh, it doesn't really have a name. It's just part of an instance group, and the network is just going to be Accelerate Lab. And we're going to go ahead and minimize that out. Right, so the objectives, this lab, we're going to go ahead and create HTTP and health check firewall rules, configure two instance templates, and create two managed instance groups. So the only difference between managed and unmanaged is that managed basically helps us with a lot of automation in terms of scaling resources and such. And then we're going to go ahead and configure an HTTP load balancer with an IP address of range 4 and range 6. And we're going to go ahead and stress test it out. And we're going to go ahead and create a deny list of IP address to restrict access to our load balancer. So go ahead and just hit start lab real quick. I'm not a robot. I've got buses. All right. I think it's a bus. No, wait out. I'm quite sure there are no buses left. I'm gonna verify. Wow. All right. I'm gonna do bicycles instead. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I've been failing these captures recently. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I don't think there are any bikes back, right? Okay, verify. All right, I'm gonna use my subscription, and you should be able to use your subscription for now if you were able to complete the previous lab. All right, we're gonna wait for our resources to provision, and then we're gonna start by configuring a load balancer and creating health check firewall rules. So open Google Console. I'm gonna say new window, next, password, paste it out, accept, and terms and conditions comes after. Okay, it's not, I don't want this one. I am in O2. Okay, here we go. All right. So you just want to make sure that you're under the right username or account, basically. Agree and continue. I'm also going to go ahead and select the project. This should have been selected automatically, but just because I previously logged in, so I kind of saved my information. So this is going to be GCP03 CCC to a FA8. So it's going to be this one. and things are looking fine. I'll close that. All right. We're going to go ahead and create a firewall rule, basically a health check. So we're going to go for nav menu, VPC network, firewall. Notice the existing ICMP, internal RDP, and SSH firewall rules. Each Google Cloud project starts with the default network and these firewall rules. Basically, what we had previously. So we have allow SSH and see how everything is actually named default and has a network of default. We're going to allow ICMP internal for the internal VPC networks, what we were able to look at a little bit in the previous lab, and RDP. Cool, we're going to leave that at default. I actually, let's see. You're not able to delete these, I'm quite sure. Or are you? Are you allowed to? Oh, you might be allowed to, but we're not going to do that for sure. All right, let's go ahead and create firewall rule. And then we're going to leave, set following values, leave all others at default. Name is default, allow HTTP. Network default, target specified, and target text are going to be HTTP server. So basically, we want to give a network tag of HTTP server a little while later, IPv4 ranges, 0.0.0.0, and all protocols or ports. Then we're going to go ahead and use specified protocols or ports, and we're going to say check, we're going to use TCP at port 80. And then we're going to click create. Then we're going to go ahead and create the health check firewall rule. So this was just to allow HTTP connectivity, and this is just to check the health. Well, yeah, check the health basically. Create new firewall rule. It's going to be default allow health check, and then network default IP target tags HTTP server for ranges, and we're gonna have two IP addresses, and I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be our managed instance group. So it's gonna be 130.211.0.0, and each range. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, the /22 is just gonna have it's just gonna be within the range of this IP address and about 22 levels from it. Then we're gonna go ahead and hit spacebar and to basically implement that. Then we're gonna say 35.101.0.0 / within 16 steps of this IP address. Spacebar as well. Then we're gonna say TCP, and we're not specifying the port. Then we're gonna go ahead and click create. All right, once it's done, we're gonna go ahead and check my progress. Message. All right, it's done. Let's check my progress, and it seems that it's corrected. It's correct and verified. Cool. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and configure instance templates and create instance groups. And we're gonna create a managed instance group using an instance template, and then we're gonna let it act as a backend of the load balancer. All right, we're gonna go ahead and create one instance template for US East 1 and Europe West 1. So compute engine, instance templates. All right, so first things first, we're gonna go ahead and create instance template. name is going to be US East 1 template. US East 1 template. Series going to be N1. And then you can specify the machine type from there. And all right, it should be default N1 standard 1, I'm guessing, because they did not specify. Then we're going to go ahead and specify its security or networking. Let's see. Okay, we're going to go ahead and where is this? Click the management tab. And then under metadata, we're going to click add item, or we're going to add a startup script. Metadata, add item. All right, the key is going to be startup script URL, and the value is just going to be this sh file that is stored in cloud storage. And copy this and paste it. So as you see, startup script URL specifies a script that executes when instances are started. This script installs Apache and changes the welcome page to include the client IP and the name, region, and the zone of the VM instance. And we can go ahead and look at the script here. Cool. And you can see that it's stored in cloud storage, and it has all of these. And if you were to think back a little bit, instead of just what this helps us is that we don't have to type it out on our own, to install Apache and then to actually change the contents of it on our own. It will do it automatically if we were to create a VM instance using this template. I'm going to close this out. Then we're going to go ahead and look at networking. And then this is where we specify our HTTP server network tag. Remember to hit enter. Then network is default. Subnetwork is going to be default. All right, so if you were to toggle it, you'll see subnetwork. We're going to leave it as default in US East 1. All right, and you can see, let me go ahead and scroll back up.
Lane, where were those items again? I'm switching back and forth. The subnetwork.
Which items?
The subnetwork.
The network.
Oh, under network interfaces. I'll go look for it.
Yeah. And then you have this little toggle button. You can click on it, and there should be network, subnetwork, IP. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna close this out. Scrolling back down. All right. We're gonna click done or create. I'm just gonna click create probably. Yep. Oh, and also a cool thing about GCP is that there's always an estimation of your VM instance, the price basically, and you'll see that it's this price just because of all the specifications we have. But if you were to lower one of the things, say machine type, if you were to do F1 micro, it'll be way cheaper. So we'll leave it N1 standard 1. And then let me go ahead and click on create. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and create another template for Europe West 1. So it's gonna be more actions, create instance template. So basically Europe West 1 template. And then they're not specifying its machine type, so we're gonna leave it as it is. Then we're just gonna go ahead and look at the networking, and you see how it's not allowing. Wait, did we allow? Okay. Yep. we're just going to go ahead and click on networking. There's no startup scripts. We don't want it to install Apache on its own. And then we're just going to add a subnetwork. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to go ahead and have a firewall rule to allow HTTP on this. We'll see why later. And we're going to have default at Europe West 1 within the range of 20 steps. All right, here's the done and create. Next, we're going to create the managed instance groups using these templates. So we just want to go ahead and click on instance groups over here. And we're going to create instance groups. And then we're going to set the following. US East 1, manage instance groups. Location is going to be multiple zones. That's going to cost a little more. Then we're going to have region at US East 1. Oh, it has low CO2. Okay. And then we're going to have US East 1. Oh, we're going to use the instance template called US East 1. Oh, there we go. So we have 2, but this it must be in the subnetwork of Europe West 1. And then we're gonna clear US East 1. All right, auto scaling policy. This is where we have the managed feature of our managed instance group. And then auto scaling policy. Okay. Click pencil icon. And then we're gonna have metric type as CPU. So, okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat real quick. Right, Kristen. It might be because your template, a few reasons. One, it might not be, you didn't specify the network or like the region properly, or 2, it's not done provisioning. So if it was grayed out like these, you could check out the error message.
I think they were grayed out. I just assumed they were done. So I'm going to go look at that.
Cool. Definitely just reach out if you're still facing a problem. All right. Let's see. Looking at here. Again, auto scaling mode. What is? No, that's not. Auto scaling policy, metric type CPU utilization. Okay, so basically under auto scaling metrics, we're gonna go ahead and toggle what we have already by default, which is CPU utilization. You could definitely add another metric if you want. So like the other metric could be HTTP load balancing utilization monitoring metric. Okay, I'm gonna close this out. And it's asking for us to have target CPU utilization at 80%. So toggle this down again. Target CPU utilization should be 80. And then we're going to click done. Cooldown period should be 45. All right. So basically, it's to specify how long it takes for your app to initialize from boot time until it is ready to serve. Minimum number of instances over here under auto scaling should be 1. Maximum number of instances should be 45. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, 5. It should be 5. Right, so managed instance groups offer auto-scaling capabilities that allow you to automatically add or remove instances from a MIG based on increases or decreases in load. So auto scaling helps your app gracefully handle increases in traffic, reduce costs when the need for resources are lower. So you just gotta define the auto scaling policy, and the auto scaler performs automatic scaling based on the measure load. We're gonna go ahead and click create, and we're gonna create an MIG. Not sure why the error message popped up. Next, we're gonna create an MIG for a Europe West 1 in that network. All right, let's go ahead and create a new instance group. It's gonna be Europe West 1 MIG. All right, we're gonna specify all of the other ones. Instance template would be Europe West 1 template. Oh, did I specify? Okay, let me go ahead and specify the location and region. All right, multiple zones, Europe West 1 region. Oh, Europe West 1 region, which is in Belgium. And then we're gonna use the instance template as with Europe West 1. Right, then we're gonna change the same, we're gonna check the same thing, which is CPU utilization at 80%. And then go ahead and click on done. Cooldown period should be 45. And then our maximum number of instances is gonna be 5 instead of 10. And we're gonna go ahead and click on create. And then we're gonna verify our progress. Okay, let me go ahead and look at instance groups again. Okay. So if you were to click on VM instances, you should have your East 1 and West 1 MIG created. And then you can go ahead and click onto it and see some of its details. So like currently there's no traffic, so it should have lower resources. Let's go ahead and check our progress. I just keep clicking until it works really. I'm gonna wait it out a bit. Compute engine, click VM instance. Start with US. Right? Click on the external IP. This is sketchy. Interesting. We'll let it be for now.
There were 2 questions in the chat. Basically, people saying they
Yeah,
can't.
we were able to look over it.
Okay, so those were already solved.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Alrighty, then we're gonna go ahead and verify the backends first. So let's go ahead and click on the external IP address of an instance of US East 1 MIG. Okay. External IP. All right, we're gonna see the IP address, and all of these were part of the startup script, and it's just gonna change the IP address and host name. All right, I'll close this out. This should work. Let me go ahead and check my progress here. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. Europe West 1 and Europe East 1 should both work. Oh, okay. I see a problem with yours West one. Okay, let me go ahead and scroll back up and do my here. Okay. Might be because we didn't add a startup script to our Europe West one. Let me go ahead and check it out right now. I'm gonna look at one minute. Right. This is templates. Okay, Europe West one template. Right. Let me go add a metadata. I'm gonna edit it. Am I not allowed to edit it? Okay. Alright, let me go ahead and try to create a new instance template. Yeah. I'm gonna name it New Europe West one template. What were the other? By copying you. Oh, we're supposed to create similar. My apologies. So basically, create similar is just to kind of clone it. Then you can modify it from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and create from here. I'll click on this. Create similar. We're supposed to name this Europe West one. But let me go ahead and just name it New Europe West one. My apologies if you followed me. Template. Then we just want to go ahead and change the sub network to Europe West one. All right. Here networking. And then this is gonna be Euro West one. Done, create. And then I'm gonna look into my Euro instance groups. I'm gonna go ahead and look at Euro West one. Yeah, I should be able to edit it. And then it's gonna be the new Euro West one. Alright, I'll save this. Alright. Okay, it's just taking a while. In the event of it still not verifying our progress, I'll just delete our old instance template as well as rename our newly created instance template to just Europe West 1. But yeah, all right, back here. I'll wait on that real quick. Check my progress if it works. Okay, it works. You don't have to rename it apparently. So that's great. Now we're just gonna go ahead and verify our backends, which we already did. We're just now gonna configure the load balancer. Start a configuration by going to network services, then looking for load balancing. Okay, let me just search it here. Load balancing. under HTTPS load balancers, click on start. We're gonna create first, sorry. Then we're gonna create a HTTP load balancer. Select from my internet to my VMs or serverless services, and then we're gonna click continue. Set the name to HTTP LB for load balancer. Then we're gonna click on backend configuration. We're gonna choose create a backend service. So we're gonna name it HTTP backend. Instance group is gonna be US East 1. Okay, so it's gonna be US East 1 managed instance group. Port numbers are gonna be 80, which is quite the default. And then balancing rate, let's do balancing mode, let's do rate. And then maximum rate per second should be 50. Capacity is going to be 100. Configuration means that the load balancer attempts to keep each instance of this managed instance group at or below 50 requests per second. We're going to go ahead and click done. And then we're going to click on add backend. And then we're going to go ahead and choose our Europe West 1 instance group. Port number is going to be 80. Balancing mode this time around is going to be utilization instead of rate or request per second. Then we're going to have maximum backend utilization at 80 or 80%. And then capacity is going to be 100. So this basically means we're going to keep each instance of this managed instance group at or below 80% of CPU utilization. Click done. Then for health check, let's see, we're going to go ahead and select create health check. All right. This might be an outdated version as well. I'm going to go over here and then under health check, click create a health check. And then we're going to go ahead and name it HTTP health check protocol TCP port at 80. Health checks determine which instances receive new connections. This HTTP health check polls instances every 5 seconds. Waits up to 5 seconds for a response and treats 2 successful or 2 failed or unhealthy respectively. And this is only because we have our check interval at 5. So that being every 5 seconds, timeout at 5 seconds, which is how long we wait for a response. Healthy threshold, unhealthy threshold. Basically our attempts. We're gonna go ahead and click save. We're gonna check enable logging, which basically helps us look at the error messages that may come out, successful messages that may come out. Then we're gonna go ahead and click on create. Oh, did I change the sample? Cool. I'm not sure if I changed the sample rate, but I'll see that later, I guess. Let me go ahead and modify this. Oh, sample rate is at 1. Cool. And then we're gonna go ahead and click on create. Then we're gonna go ahead and configure the front end. So click on front end configuration. Let me go ahead and wait real quick. Oh, I think I created the load balancer by accident. We're supposed to also configure the front end. But yeah, what we're gonna do now is just to configure the front end to have the HTTP protocol, have an IP address of the range 4. and IP address ephemeral at port 80. I go and edit. Front end configuration, HTTP, IP. Let's see. Front end configuration. Maybe see if it works anything else differently. Okay, it should be right actually. Oh, we're supposed to add one more. Okay, edit front end configuration. Add front end IP and port. Okay, don't need the name. HTTP IPv6 this time, ephemeral 80. Done. And review and finalize. We're supposed to check this and see if it is what it is. Did I say ephemeral? I did. Oh, I did not save this. Oh, okay. Sure. I'm just gonna go ahead and update it real quick. And then click on the name of the load balancer, which is HTTP/LB. Note that the IPv4 and IPv6 addresses of the load balancer for the next task. All right. Let me go ahead and scroll down real quick. Okay. We're 27 minutes. Right, I'm just gonna go ahead and it shows that one backend service is unhealthy. Not sure if that's gonna be too big of a problem as of now. Let me go ahead and have a notepad. I'm gonna go ahead and save our IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. Okay, let me go ahead and copy this. I'm gonna say load balancer IPv4, this one, and then IPv6 at that. Paste. Okay, anything else? Nope, I'm leaving it as it is. All right. Check my progress. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and test the HTTP load balancer. To test it, we're gonna open a new tab and navigate to our load balancer in the meantime. Okay. It might take up to 5 minutes to access the HTTP load balancer. In the meantime, you might get an error 404 website not found page or 502 error. Keep trying until you see the page of one of the back ends. Let's go ahead and see if I can try to find command line get IP address of the balancer. Okay, we can probably use describe. Let's go ahead and activate Cloud Shell real quick. Let's try Gcloud compute forwarding rules describe enter. Oh, we need a name. Okay. What if we said Gcloud? I'm gonna say compute forwarding rules. Help. Create, delete, scribe, import list. Okay, let's do list. Forwarding rules, list, authorize. Okay, it seems that we've got two forwarding rules, basically the one we created. It's not really displaying if it's up or not. I'm just gonna go minimize this. Okay, let's try this. So it's HTTP. Paste in that. Okay, it seems that it works without SSL certification. We have our IPv6 address. It's gonna be HTTP. And it works. Okay, great. Perfect. Now we're gonna go ahead and stress test it. So we're gonna create a new VM to simulate a load or traffic on the HTTP load balancer using Siege. So I'm gonna go ahead for VM instances. We're gonna go ahead and create a new instance. Gonna be called Siege VM US West 1, US West 1C, and then series is N1. Default N1 standard 1. Given that US West 1 is closer to US East 1 than Europe West 1, traffic should be forwarded only to US East 1 unless the load is too high, then it's going to go to Europe West 1. Click create and wait for it to be created. Then we're going to SSH into it. All right. Then we're going to install Siege. Let me go ahead and just search up Siege. It's a package that is, let me go ahead and specify this better. Okay, so it's a benchmark utility, can stress test a single URL with a user-defined number of simulated users, or basically imaginary users. All right. Okay, I'm gonna close this out. All right, since it is created, we're gonna just SSH into it, connect to our VM, and then we're gonna install Siege. Get yes, install Siege. Package installed. Then we're gonna go ahead and export LB IP as a environment variable, and then I'm gonna copy this and paste it. And then we have an environment variable called LB_IP to store our IPv4 address. Then we just want to go ahead and use Siege. And then 250 is going to be the simulated users. Then we're just going to provide it a URL, which is the LB_IP, which is stored under our LB_IP environment variable, which can be accessed using this $sign. LB_IP, enter. New configuration template added, and then the server is now under Siege. Cloud console, nav menu, load balancing. We just want to see how it's handling the traffic that was simulated by Siege. Load balancing. Okay. All right. Then we're gonna go ahead and click on HTTP load balancing. Then click on HTTP backend. What am I? Click. Okay. I'm already there. Sorry. Then click on the monitoring tab, and you can see how it is, how the traffic is looking so far. So monitor front end location total inbound traffic between North America, and then 2 backends for up to for 2 to 3 minutes. We can kind of skip this, but if you were to redo this lab, you can kind of like wait for it a bit, see how the monitoring logging is changing. First, traffic should just be directed to US East 1. Then it should basically be directed also to Europe West 1 when the rate is too high. Then we're going to return. We're going to stop it. Let's go ahead and deny list the Siege VM now. Okay. Socket failure. Okay. It seems that my simulation has been aborted on its own. There was a failure in threshold. Okay, it might be a Siege problem, as mentioned here, or our actual load balancer problem. If I were the only one to have this problem, then we just skip through it for now. Let me go ahead and minimize this. Okay. My biggest fear was probably the Europe West 1 MIG having one instance with an unhealthy health check, really. I'll just go back into my compute engine real quick. Okay, my MIG instance groups. Oh, okay, it has 2 templates, does it? Oh, okay. So the biggest problem here was that I messed up on creating the instance template for Europe West 1, right? So what happened was that my then created VM can't find or wasn't updated to the new template just because it's already been provisioned. So that's just the main problem. Totally fine. We can go ahead and restart or replace VMs. But yeah, that is the solution to the problem that I was facing, just so you know. So let's go ahead and now deny list an IP address, specifically the IP address of our Siege VM instance. All right, VM instance, and look at the external IP of Siege VM. We're gonna copy this and go paste it here. And then Cloud Console, we're gonna look for network security, Cloud Armor. And then we're gonna create a policy. and it's going to be called denial list. Siege default rule action is going to be deny allow. It's going to be allow. Sorry about that. Then we're going to go ahead and click next step. We're going to add rule. Set the following rules. So condition. There's no condition. It's probably a match. Action is going to be deny status 403. Priority is going to be 1,000. Yep. So the match is going to be the IP address. All right. We're going to click done. Click next step. Click add target. For type, I'm going to select load balancer backend service. For target, we're going to select HTTP backend. And then we're going to create policy. Alternatively, you can set the default rule to deny, and it'll only allow traffic from authorized user IP addresses. There you go. All right, we're going to wait for a policy to be created before moving on to the next step. Let's check our progress because it's created already. And assessment completed. We're going to go ahead and verify if the security policy has been created. Oh, we're just going to verify the security policy, my bad. So we're just going to go back to our SSH terminal, which is, did I close it out? Downloads. Oh, there we go. Over here. And then we're going to try to curl that IP address again. You could always, okay, let's try curl HTTP $L load balancer IP. It shouldn't work. Oh wait, it should have 403 forbidden. It actually does not have 4P. Let me go ahead and close this out. I'm gonna go ahead and go into our terminal again. That's SSH. Might just be a lagging issue. Okay. Let me see if we still have go. We don't have that anymore. So I'm just gonna copy and paste the IP address again. Can I copy it? I'm not sure. Just copy it. Okay, export RBIP equals paste. Okay. All right. Then we're gonna go ahead and try the curl. $ID. Might take. We're supposed to try until we get the 403 forbidden error. It takes a while for Cloud Armor to configure, I guess. But yeah, let's look at the next step real quick. Open a new tab in the browser and navigate to HTTP IPv4. Make sure replace with the IPv4. You can access the HTTP load balancer from the browser because our default rule to allow traffic. However, you cannot access it from a CVM because it is in the denial list. So, let's see. Okay. Next, we're just gonna go ahead and check if under simulation using the siege package, whether or not that kind of traffic will be blocked as well. Let's go ahead and just keep curling until we get an error 404, I guess. Okay. Let's see. This is a lot of just waiting. Okay, I'm gonna skip this a little bit actually because we have like 8 minutes left. All right. Go ahead and just run siege. So it's just gonna be this. Pasting it. Server is not under siege. Okay. All right. Then we're gonna go ahead and explore security policy logs. Let's look for Cloud Armor. And then click deny list siege, click logs. View policy logs. And on the logging page, make sure to clear all the text. Okay, and you can oops. All right, make sure to clear all the text in the query preview. Now click run query. So basically clear and run. Run query. All right, it shows that we've got quite a IP addresses, not IP addresses, but quite a few runs that were getting the 403 errors, and this is mainly because of the simulation under siege. So they have like 250 occurrences, and that's why there's just so many. Let's go ahead and expand one of the log entry. So expand HTTP requests. And oops, a little bit. Okay. So this is the HTTP request column. Request should be from the siege VM IP address. If not, expand another log query. Okay. It's showing. This is the siege VM IP, right? 25230. Instead, extend the time. 908. Okay. It's not expand under expand. Get. Right. Let's see. Okay, we can actually look at our HTTP request. On it, there is HTTP request. There is this remote IP that should equal your siege VM instance IP address. Next, we're gonna expand JSON payload, and you can see that the type is load balancer. It's a help channel load balancer. And then as for enforced security policy, it's gonna be the deny list that we created. And then that's it for the lab for now. We have 4 minutes. Were you guys able to catch up? this was quite a heavy lab, really. I'm gonna go ahead and end lab. Okay. How are we doing so far? Go ahead and just drop it in the chat.
Thanks again for attending the School of Cloud. Now check out some of our other videos. And see you back next time.